So as I said earlier, our session today is about, well, the title was Shine the Light on Your Company Culture. It's something that I'm quite excited about because we're currently kind of looking inward at our culture at Outlaw just now. And I think what we've found is a lot of people just now, but I think we're going to speak a little bit further about this, but due to the current circumstances, a lot of people are looking within and they've had a bit of time to pause and think about what's important to them, what their values are, and ultimately what their culture is and where they're going. So it's a session that I'm really excited about. And we've got Kirsty Innes joining us today. Give us a wave, Kirsty. And we've got Andrew Dobbie. Andrew, say hi.
Hi.
Next one. So I think, so that we do them justice, I'm going to let both of them introduce themselves. So Kirsty, we'll start with you. Just tell us a little bit about who you are. That would be great.
Yeah. So my name's Kirsty, and I'm a strategic marketing consultant. So I work with at the front end of the business of the process before we get on to tactical aspects such as implementation, building websites, and so on. So I work with my clients to help them to clearly articulate their purpose and how the unique way that they go about fulfilling that purpose, and also the impact that they're trying to make, because that is the key to everything in the foundation. So I help them to try and articulate that, and then it's about digging much deeper into what it is that they're trying to achieve, and articulating that. And often it means doing fewer things better, rather than more things, and spreading themselves too thin, and making a bigger impact, and ensuring that they attract the right clients to them based on shared values. And typically I will work with fairly established businesses who are looking to reconnect with that purpose. So maybe they've kind of lost their way a little bit, and they need to reconnect with why it is that they started the business in the first place. Or similarly, I've been working with some startups who are looking to articulate what their purpose is before they set out really and set that path.
Thanks, Kirsty. Good to have you on. Andrew?
Great. Well, I'm just going to see if this works. So hi everyone, so I'm Andrew, I'm the founder of MadeBrave. If you want to check me out on any social channels, you can find me at Dobbie Andrew or MadeBrave there. So yeah, I run a creative brand agency. This is in Glasgow. So this is our lovely studio that we've just moved into in the East End of Glasgow. However, in light of COVID, we've just not been able to enjoy it. So I also run a second agency called Campfire, based out in Edinburgh. Campfire is a content production agency. This is Campfire. We tend to work with sort of large global corporates. So Nestle is our biggest client that we work with. And then we work with a lot of drinks brands and a lot of different brands in different sectors. And yeah, we work a lot. Branding and culture are often one and the same. And so, you know, our world crosses over into both parts. We were recently named top 100 agencies in the UK by The Drum, and also last year won Campaigns Magazine's best places to work, and that was all based around company culture. And so we're very much, I suppose, known at MadeBrave for having a very vibrant culture and team. And so hopefully I can share some of that knowledge with you all today.
Awesome, thanks, Andrew. I was just saying to everyone earlier that Andrew's joint best background and setup. We had Elliot Reeves on an earlier show, so awesome, Andrew. Good to have you on today.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Right, we'll get straight into it because it's a really exciting topic. And what I want to start with is just asking you both, in any order, why culture is important to you, and I guess what it means to you. If we can frame the session, that would be great.
Okay, so I've kind of stumbled into culture because I've been a marketer for a long time, and I've been working for myself for around about 8 years now, and I was finding that I was going into businesses who wanted branding, and they wanted to, and they saw marketing and branding as being the outward facing bit, and over a period of years, becoming increasingly frustrated that that marketing and branding was seen as being the gloss that you put on, so that's what you're putting to the outside world, and then being almost drawn into the culture. So you've got to live and breathe your brand, and it's just what Andrew said earlier, your brand and your culture is actually the same thing. Your culture is how you live and breathe your values and what your purpose is, and your marketing and your brand should be the manifestation of that, and how you communicate. So I kind of fell into it from a frustration that the businesses I was working with wanted the gloss, but didn't want to do the work to really understand what that brand meant to them, and how they live and breathe the brand and their values in their everyday work. So then I set about trying to understand more about it, and learning more about it. And now my offer it's absolutely one and the same thing as Andrew mentioned.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, so I think culture, it's been very important to me, very important to the journey that we've had at MadeBrave. Echoing, what Kirsty said, brand and culture is all one and the same, and often people are looking at, they do all the visual elements of brand, and they can't understand why they've got a broken culture in their business. So we all have a culture, whether that's good culture or bad culture. And I suppose I've been very interested since MadeBrave started, and I suppose, we're 8 years old as a business, and very early on I cottoned on, or realized that if you can build your brand from the inside out. And so that's the term I often use. And instead of trying to push something outwardly, if you look after the people you have in your business, and culture, it's about more than just a visual identity. That's a very small part of how your culture comes to life. It's very much built, and I'm sure we're going to go on to talk to this in a bit, but it's built around a strong purpose. It's built around a set of values, and those values then become behaviors that I suppose that you're looking for your team members to repeat, and yourself to repeat, and having a strong purpose, having strong values. These are two of the sort of strongest elements in building a strong culture. And they help you make decisions. They help you help you be accountable, and they help with building consistency. And when you're building a team, people need consistency. They need to understand the I suppose the system that they're in. Much like if we as citizens, your government, if they behave consistently, we understand what system we're in, and we understand how we play our part in that. And if they behave erratically, then you don't understand what or how you're meant to behave. And so culture lives and breathes in businesses. It lives and breathes in tribes as human beings. It lives and breathes in countries and governments. And so the bit that you can mainly control is what's in your power often. And so I suppose I've always been very excited about how to create a culture that, when I look back on my working career and my team do, that they were part of something great. And I often say to our team that it's about the balance of life and work. Often, it's about trying to find and make the whole thing enjoyable, and kind of make it one and the same, because we're at work more than we are with our family.
Brilliant. Thanks both. That's great. Question I've got is, I guess, so why now? What I think people are more susceptible and more open to, I think because we've had a period of being able to, I guess, just pause and let things settle and think about the direction we're taking things as business owners or marketers. Why is culture important now? It'd be nice to hear your guys' input on that.
Well, I think we're all in the situation we're in, and I think it's been a time that time of reflection, where we have the opportunity to reflect, and people, I believe that people are really questioning what it is that they value, and possibly being even quite surprised that things that we took for granted are things that we value, whether that be relationships, connection, feeling that you're doing something meaningful, feeling that you're touch, family, the planet, our health, a lot of things that we've possibly taken for granted, and we've had this period of calm where we've had time to reflect, and I'm not going to say getting back to the new normal, because that's just become but how normal was normal? Was it really normal? And actually we have an opportunity now to reinvent what that normal is, and it's an opportunity that we have. I think consumers expect it. Consumers are looking to business to lead the way. They expect businesses to be ethical and responsible. Employees expect it as well. They want to be part of being a part of making societal change and making a difference. They want to have meaningful work. They want to know the role that they play in that within their own businesses. There's no greater time now. Change is needed now. The next crisis, or not even the next crisis, the one we're also fighting at the same time is climate change. And we have an opportunity to make a difference. And this is all on the backdrop of lack of trust. Trust has been radically eroded in recent times. And there's a fantastic website which I really recommend called the Edelman Trust Barometer. And the Edelman Trust Barometer is 20 years of research, global research, over 28 countries, 50,000 respondents, and it happens every year around about February time. They issue this Trust Barometer, and for the first time, it's remarkable. But the UK is the second. I always get this, the second least trusting society, only above Russia.
Wow.
and that has happened over, and it's trust in government, trust in institutions, trust in media, trust in businesses to do the right thing. So those who are more conscious and socially conscious, the time is now to reinvent a new future, and one that we want to be part of, and taking that responsibility.
Amazing, thank you. Andrew, what's your take on now?
Cool. Well, I think, you mentioned earlier that, culture is a topic that's very topical and very, current, and, more and more people are talking about it. And I've seen that kind of happen over the last 10 years, I suppose growing our business as well. And I think a lot of it's happened because, the world's become more so connected. We're able to understand and hear stories, more so from around the world. And I think brands and businesses, everything used to come from the top down, and they just behaved the way they wanted to behave, and it was all about profit. And and you didn't get to hear what bad cultures were or good culture. You only really knew the culture you were in, or the 5 or 6 or 10 businesses around in your area. We now we're able to hear and understand about every business, every culture, everywhere. And I suppose now what has kind of flipped and happened is that brands are no longer what we say they are. The owners, the leaders, the people that create them. It's about what they say they are. So it's your team members, it's your tribe, your wider tribe, the following, the people, the wider. So so brands are often built about what we often say is what other people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So so when I'm not here, and and people are off talking about MadeBrave, what do they say? And that's a lot of what how MadeBrave's brand, how its culture is then defined. So it's not actually what I say. I'll say a lot of things today, but a lot of other people will say slightly different in terms. And I suppose our job in building the culture is to try and create the patterns of behavior, the patterns of reputation that we want that we want to have. And I think now why now is specifically important is that we're seeing that, as a leader, it's not about dictating. It's about trying to keep a tribe of people moving in a way that you hope is the right and correct way to do it, but it's not all your decision. And yeah, I think, as we're seeing with the world and COVID and everything else that's happening, I think there's a big opportunity, like Kirsty said, to kind of reevaluate. And what we're seeing is that a lot of brands and a lot of businesses that maybe said they had a purpose or said that these were their values, they're now not acting and behaving in the way that are true to those. So the businesses that do these things and where the values or purpose are not authentic, well, they're suddenly, I suppose, shown for what they are. However, it doesn't mean that, if you got to this point and you didn't know your purpose, you didn't understand your values, that you can't change or create them. Often it's about, just now gives us an opportunity to look and to understand, is our purpose correct? Are we actually living by it? Are our values correct? And have we been living a little bit of a lie? And, Lee, you mentioned as a business, you're looking at your culture just now and trying to define it. And you're obviously, kind of more of the start of your journey, which is a great time to be looking at all this stuff and trying to define it. So I think, I mentioned earlier that these things give you a real opportunity to hold yourself accountable. So just now, it's a good chance to stop, reflect while we've got a little bit of extra time, or potentially, I don't know, I've not got any extra time at the moment. I've never worked so hard in my life. I don't know about anyone else. I see all these people sitting in their gardens, but I seem to be doing twice as much work. But I think it's a good chance to stop and redefine what we want to be. I did a webinar recently with Mark Logan of Skyscanner, and I think one of the comments he said is, that if you look back in 5 years' time, are you going to be proud of the behaviours you did that you had at this time? And I suppose I'm always looking at that as a leader in the business. I never want to do anything within the culture that that's going to sit negatively in my brain for the future. So sorry I rambled there.
No worries. Thank you so much, both. That's really interesting. So I think we're all in agreement that the time is now. But just to get to the nitty gritty, so if there are businesses, business owners, leaders on this call or listening to the recording, I guess it's easier to say get started, but then what businesses are faced with is actually the doing. So they're so busy that they're in their flow of trying to cope with all the stuff they have to do. And Andrew, you can maybe take us back in your answer to this, I guess, when you, right back at the start, when you started to think about your culture and your values. But if both of you could give us, I guess, just some tips and some advice on practically how to get started with thinking about your culture now.
Yeah. So I suppose I can give you my journey in terms of how it worked for us. First of all, I let the culture sort of evolve itself. So, with every new person that came into the business, we had quite rapid growth. Within, when I started my business, within a year, we had 6 people in the team. Within 2 years, we had 16 people in the team. And, and we're now we've got 50 people in the team, or just under 50. So I had a very rapid learning curve in running a business, setting up all the, operational and HR side, and, meanwhile trying to build the culture, a brand, and all these other things. So a lot of it, it was just happening around me, but I was very conscious of, every time a new person comes in, and we still have this approach that the culture can be changed and it can evolve. It's a never moving thing. It's not something that you define once and then you stop. So I let ours kind of run for the first couple of years without kind of really defining things. However, what I started to notice was there was patterns, there was repeatable things that certain people said. There was things that we did, events, like in terms of things that we celebrated more, types of food that we ate more than others, and all of these things, even though these are some of the softer things, they start to shape your culture. So like little things, like I used to give everyone burritos on a Friday, right? So Mexican themed food became a part of the culture of MadeBrave, and it stuck and it stayed, and it's become, and it's rolled into other things in MadeBrave. Now that's obviously, you know, that you know, that's not a value, etc. But it's, you know, cultures are built and shaped on many different things. You know, you just have to look at cultures of cities, of countries, of places, and you know, they're often built around the food, how they eat the food together. You know, they're built around what events they have on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, and so almost, you know, you kind of need to organically let it happen first, and then decide what ones are important to us. You know, what are the ones that, you know, because you can't do everything, you can't do it all the time. And as I said, you know, human behavior, we like consistency, and we like to understand where we're going, you know, what's going to happen, and you know, being able to predict. Like, so as MadeBrave, you know, a big thing that became a big part of our culture was, you know, kind of doing pranks on, you know, April Fool's Day, or doing pranks around Christmas time. So, you know, so we'll often, you know, like Keenan, I've just noticed it's on the call here. Keenan's our brand manager. Give everyone a wave, Keenan. So me and Keenan, we lead on a lot of the culture stuff together, and a lot of the MadeBrave brand stuff. And for example, you know, we'll do things like, you know, we sneaked into the office over a weekend. We got a prop company to come and set up a whole winter wonderland in the whole of the office. And then we set up hidden cameras everywhere. And then, you know, the team come into the office, they don't know this is happening, and we film the reaction to it. Now that's part of our culture now. And you know, so you know, there's things, I can't even remember the bloody question now. What was the question, Lee? I'm rambling again.
I guess it's okay. Rambling's fine. It was focused around what people can do practically to
do it. Yeah.
The first step on culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so you let the stuff happen first, and then backwards engineer and start to figure out what makes it great. So, you know, it's very difficult to do it yourself and to understand internally what's in your culture, because you're often too close to it. So much like Kirsty does this for brands, this is what we also do for brands. So often we are brought into large companies, and our first part is to help them define what is there, and what, you know, so, you know, their purpose, their vision, their values, the, you know, all this stuff that is the we call it the foundations underneath the visual element of a brand. And so, you know, we come in and we help define that. And I think, you know, for anyone that's, you know, running a business, it's very difficult as well, you know, depending on the size you are, whether you can afford to do this or not. So sometimes you might, you know, just try and define it yourself early on. But when you get to a point, you almost want someone to facilitate, come in and pull it out of your brain and pull it out of the people. And, you know, so we got to a point, we felt, well, we need to get some of this down on paper, because we're doing it for other people. We don't do it for ourselves. And, you know, so you kind of really want to tease that out of everyone on the team. And then you want to take the best bits, and you want to make everybody feel like they're involved in shaping that. It's not, you know, I think if you dictate it, then very much it's not our culture. It's, you know, your culture, and you're telling people.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Kirsty, is there anything you'd like to jump in on there?
Well, yeah, it touches on all of that. So where do you start? Well, I think you start with you know, so if you're building a business, or you start with what matters to you, and then if you can articulate that, and what and purpose is I think is a word that scares a lot of people. You know, purpose sounds very grand, and what's your purpose in life? What was the promise I made when I came to this earth? It sounds very scary, but purpose is whatever it means to you, from a what drives you, what are your beliefs, what's important to you, and that could be a really small purpose, or it could be a huge purpose. So and then it's around how you, well, I believe it's then how you express that purpose through your business. So you know, you've got the business life, professional life, and personal life. They're interchangeable now. I think the days where you worked 9 to 5 and you came home, life is just life. So how do you fulfill and express your purpose through your business? And if you have, and that vision is then what will unite and inspire everybody else, because people get behind that vision with you. So your values is what unites your team, and then by expressing those values, and you're all, and you have a common purpose, because you're trying to do do something really meaningful, and your employees then know what their role is in helping you to fulfill that vision. I watched an amazing documentary just this week. It's not even released yet, so called Beyond Zero, and it was a story of a carpet tile factory in America who in the 70s set themselves a goal of being net zero by 2020, and it documents this 40-year journey with all this footage, and that the culture was how they all bought into this vision, and it was the vision of the CEO at the time, and everybody in the business understood the part that they played in achieving that bigger purpose, and your vehicle, the purpose, your business is almost the vehicle to achieve that, and so it's bigger. Your purpose is bigger than making the profits. It's what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then your employees understanding that and understanding the role that they have and capturing that, so the values unite and inspire and motivate, and to be, to help you as a business owner or leader to fulfill that bigger thing, whatever that thing is.
Awesome.
How,
yeah, thank you, Kirsty. Amazing. This, I can see by the questions that this is really thought-provoking, so I'm super excited about this. We will try and get through the questions in the last kind of 15 minutes. I've wrote down a word here, and that's values. I think in the, what's going on in the world just now, I've been paying really close attention to brands and businesses that are really living their values out, and really like voicing their values and just living them. But I think naturally, if we bring it back down to kind of smaller SMEs businesses, what we often see, and I'm sure, Andrew, you mentioned this at the start, is, businesses will put values on assets, they'll put it on a website, and they'll kind of just, because they feel the need to. Have you got any tips for businesses to bring their values to life, or just now while they've got a bit of stillness? How do we actually make sure values count? That'd be useful.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the main points, and it's good that Lee picked up on that, is that me and Lee have actually been part of another organization before called Power of Life that was all about values-based, purpose-based business. And the trick to creating values in your business are not just to define them and place them on a PDF and put them in the server and say that's it, done. The trick is to bring them to life. And so it's all good and well saying that you have values. Now, I often find, businesses often go, right, well, our values are professionalism, their integrity, and I'm like, no, those things are just a given. If you're not doing those, we've got a bigger problem, right? So, your values are not words like integrity or professionalism, or, let's just be doing that stuff anyway as good human beings. The values are something that represent, and I suppose, they're more in your tone of voice, they're in your personality, and they're brought to life in a way that you're unique to you. So you can't have my purpose, you can't have my values at MadeBrave, because they're mine and they're ours, and they only belong to us. And so they have to be authentic. They're true from your belly, right? There's something unique in each one of you, if you're a business leader, or in each of your teams, and the makeup of and the behaviors and the actions that you have that's only unique to you. So we need to uncover those and find exactly what they are. I suppose, it's easier to sometimes show things, so give me 2 seconds. So, like at MadeBrave, like our first of all, our purpose is to inspire creativity in everyone, right? So that's our main purpose. So I always say to my team, when we are doing anything, webinars, we're speaking to people, don't sell to them, inspire them, right? And you inspire people, they come back and buy from you. Human beings don't like to be sold to, but they like to buy, right? So we always work to inspire wherever we can. And then, when we defined our values, this is one of ours, to infinity and beyond, right? And, it says, just like Buzz, we work hard, we dream big, and we take ourselves to new heights. And then what we did as a brand, now this is not right for everyone, this is what right for us, is we worked with artists and, you know, and designers and illustrators that embodied these values for us. And we worked with them to create films. By creating these films, we were able to talk deeper about the value, what it means to us. We were able to include people in our team that could do that. Those values and those videos then lived on, you know, as content. And you know, when you're defining these things, you know, you don't be scared to stand for things. Don't be scared to polarize. The trick is, if you're trying to attract everyone, you're going to attract no one. I always say it's better to have 100 people that love your brand than 1,000 people that like it, you know. So you're always going to get haters. Haters going to hate. You're going to find people that hate this stuff, and you know, and that's, you know, I find that stuff hard, you know, but you know, the more and more, I suppose I mature as a business leader, and you know, the more experiences I have, I'm starting to realize that's part of the game. You're always going to have people that don't get it and don't want to be a part of it, but that means you stand for something. Another of ours is amigos without egos. And this came, remember, from the Mexican food, right? So that started and spurred from, you know, that little bit of Mexican food that was a part of the culture. So we then found an artist, Richard, here, who's got a brand called Abandoned Ship. You know, and his values, you know, where, you know, obviously, you know, we're talking here about how, you know, we don't want egos. We believe creativity belongs in everyone in the team. So it's not just in the seniors, it's not just in directors, it's in you know, every single person. Sorry, I just realized my wee face wasn't there, so here I'm, tiny me's over here now. You know, so, you know, that's another one of ours. It's alone we're guacamole, chicken and rice, but together we're a tasty burrito with hot sauce on top. We work better as a team and we leave our egos at the door, you know. So that truly feels like MadeBrave. And when you start to understand our tone of voice, we've then got be your weird self. And, you know, the thing about being weird is that no one's weird in the same way. That's why we bring our whole selves to work. So this value for us allows us to talk about human beings are different, but that's what makes great teams. And again, the more I've grown as an owner or a leader of a business and shaping teams, I've had to become very aware that you can't just attract people that are the same as you, right? If I had 50 little Andrew Dobbies, MadeBrave would be a riot, right? Because we'd be, you know, I like all the idea bit, but I'm terrible at planning and organization. So I realized that very much I need opposite Andrew Dobbies. So, you know, so be your weird selves allows us to talk about, look, everyone in this business is different and we have to respect that. But also we then use this value, you know, when we talk about bringing these things to life truly, is we use this to talk about mental health. But we don't just talk about mental health, we talk about its importance. We've then built a committee in the team who are a kind of well-being, mental health and well-being committee. And then we've brought in agencies and charities that support with mental health. So we've put our money where our mouth is, and we've shown we're not just talking about it, we're actually doing these things. You know, and I can go on and go on before, but I'll give Kirsty a bit of airspace. Sorry, I'm kind of hogging there. So, you know, like, you know, I think the trick is, not just to put these things on the wall, not just to define them, is make sure they're defined uniquely to you, and then make sure you bring them to life physically, and always be looking, how are we doing that? You know, every time you go to do something, you create a new campaign, you do anything in the business, can we align it to one of our values?
Amazing. Thanks, Andrew. Kirsty?
What was the question?
So it was about values. So how I guess how people can develop real values that mean something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the technique that I use so yeah, I totally agree with Andrew there that the number of times you go into a business and you say, oh, we've done all that work. Can we just get on to the branding bit, please? Happened to me about a month ago. And I got given a PowerPoint slide deck, and it was we're honest, we're creative, we're innovative, we're professional, and you just go, oh, right. So the way when I'm working with businesses, I encourage them to think about their purpose, their way, and their impact as an alternative to mission, vision, and values. So you know, mission, vision, and values it's a construct that's been around for a long time, I think the 1960s, and mission, vision, and values tends to be quite inward looking, you know. So the mission is to I always get mission and vision mixed up anyway. So, you know, and then the values, you end up with these very me too values. So if to turn it inside out, thinking about your purpose, what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then the unique way that you make that happen. So the unique way that you make that happen is by default your values, because it's what is unique to you. And then the impact that you have on your customers is thinking about how you make your customers' lives better. And these don't have to be sort of long, you know, drawn out, complicated things. I mean, I call them purpose impact statements. They might be 2 or 3 sentences, but really they are, yeah, that sort of structure of what's your purpose, what's your way, and what's your impact. And the way is an alternative to values, so maybe a different way of thinking about it. So if someone says, what's your value? I don't know about you, what do you value? That's a really difficult question, you know, and it's not something you just, so sometimes I'll ask businesses, well, what do people thank you for? So when you've done a job well, what do they thank you for? And then they'll say, well, it's because I'm patient, or because I take the time to understand what my customers' problems are, or it's because you put your heart and soul into, you know. So thinking about what it is that people thank you for is a way of almost reverse engineering what your values are, and yeah, and that's another way of trying to get to the same point, I guess. But and also, and you know, feeling that it has to be something big, you know, it has to be, you know, your values are very much are so personal, and then it's how you then yeah, and I think it's looking at it from another way, and the impact that you have is and what you, when you're in your flow and when you're doing your best work, that is what your values are. So I think it's very easy to overthink it, you know, and but it's just really comes from your heart.
Amazing. Thanks, Kirsty. The questions are firing in, so I have one more question, and then I'm just going to let the group do my work for me, because it looks like they have. So something that I've wrote down is people and productivity. I'm hoping that both of you can give us kind of tangible examples of an increase in productivity that you've seen in people when culture has been the focus. Because I think a lot of business owners will be, potentially if they've got established businesses that haven't really focused on culture before, there might be a lot of fear around the investment that they have to put in versus are they going to see a return or uptake from their people. So I'd like to hear any examples of productivity increases. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Kirsty, you were going?
Well, I was just going to say that I'm working. I'll just maybe talk about the latest the company I've been working with recently, and I can't give you tangible numbers because they shut me down on day of lockdown. So, but in terms of how we went about defining their culture, I use a tool called CultureTalk, and CultureTalk, and we can maybe talk about this later if you like, but it's based on archetypes. So using archetypes to help to define a culture. So you know, culture is often articulated, you know, it's quite a mystical thing. You know, how do you define culture? And you can talk about having a good culture or a bad culture or an innovative culture or a creative culture, but it's very difficult to articulate it because it's quite an abstract concept. And what CultureTalk does is, by using archetypes, we try and articulate what that culture is by understanding what the archetypes are within the business. So we worked with CultureTalk and this company that they sell construction warranties. So if you're a builder and you're building 25 houses, you have to have a building insurance in place during that construction phase. And we did a CultureTalk audit, and everybody in the business takes part. So I see some of the I haven't read them in detail, but some of the questions around how do you involve everybody? Well, everybody does the survey that then comes into a central point to articulate the archetypes that are at play within the business. So Andrew there mentioned these almost inherent behaviours. So Carl Jung is being credited with archetypes, and he describes them as like dry riverbeds, where there are these inherent behaviours in the culture, and then it's your own experiences that provide the detail onto that. So we articulate the culture by using archetypes. And being in that sector, you would think that they would come back as sage, that it's all about risk management, it's all about policies and the fine print and insurance policies. But actually, when we did the CultureTalk audit, the most dominant archetype was caregiver. And then the second most dominant was sage, and then every person, which is all around cohesion and team having a really strong team. So by articulating what that culture was in a way that's very relatable, so it's articulating the behaviours by using characters and archetypes, and there's hero and ruler and every person and revolutionary, and you're not one thing, it's a combination of archetypes. And we produced an archetypal profile which everybody in the business had a role in defining. So we'd start to draw it out, and then people would take the pen off me and say, no, it's not like that at all. And we ended up with this almost almost a sign, almost as articulate. It's hard to explain, but as a all the archetypes that blend together to be able to articulate that culture. And what being a caregiver means in that sector allowed them to say, well, actually, it's the customer service that was more important than the nuts and bolts of providing insurance warranties. And then as we dug deeper and involving the whole team, and there was about 25 of them, I said, well, what's really important? And what is it in your sector that you get really, really mad about? And they said, well, in insurance, it's very much and particularly in construction, it's house builder insurance, and it's often called the completion certificate. So house builders will then, it's also called an NHBC certificate because they think that that's the only provider. But as we began to dig deeper, they said, well, you're not really about just selling insurance policies. And we did purposefully impact statements. I mean, we took them from, we're about selling insurance policies, so no, we're not. We're about raising the standards of construction in the UK, because what happens is if you do not meet minimum building regulations, then you have things like Grenfell that happen, and it's the people who are the most disadvantaged that are suffering from cutting corners and not doing the right thing. So by turning it round, saying, well, to the sales team whose job it was to be on the phone cold calling to sell insurance policies, they said, no, it's about raising the standards of construction in the UK, because, and this certificate that we give you at the end marks that you have reached not a minimum standard, but a real quality in the build. So they started off by saying this is a grudge purchase. People buying insurance, you've got your car insurance, you'll go for the cheapest one. And they said, this is a grudge purchase. And I said, well, no, if you think of it as a grudge purchase, then you will attract people who will buy your policy because it's the cheapest. But actually, if your policy is around raising the standards of construction in the UK and you giving them a completion certificate at the end of the construction phase, what that is doing, it's marking that they have exceeded the standards that is expected of the building regulations, and they want to be associated with you because that's what your policy means. And it completely changed the mindset of the sales team, because they're then talking about not the price of the policy, but say, well, the reason why our policy is more expensive than the nearest quote you've had is because actually our surveyors go out on site a minimum of 8 times during the construction phase, and we will not give that completion certificate unless you have exceeded these standards, and that's why you're paying more. And we will not be bought because you've got this cheap insurance policy. So it's completely changed the mindset of the sales team, and it's completely changed the almost what is it's driving them, and they're proud of the fact that they have a quality product because it marks quality. And we were partway through that project, and it's been suspended. But I'm really keen that they'll come back in a few months, and I'm really keen to pick that work up. But it's a complete mind shift and how and what the purpose of your business is.
Amazing. Thanks, Kirsty. Andrew, have you got anything to add on productivity?
Yeah. So yeah, we talked a lot about purpose, values, that type of stuff, and that's a part of culture, but it's not all of culture. And what I've always noticed, and how to keep a team productive, to keep a team happy, is that a real big part of it is communication. We do regular all hands, and usually they're kind of once a month, or sometimes a little bit more regular. However, like during COVID, we've been every day. When times are good, you need a little bit less of that communication. When times are hard, you need to over communicate, and you can't sort of over communicate enough. And I think being transparent with your teams is the only way that teams can be productive. So I let my team know when times are hard, when sales haven't been good, when things are difficult, when I'm struggling. A lot of leaders try and hide the fact that they're having a tough time. I tell my team when I'm having a tough time, because when I'm having a tough time, I need them to rise up and help me. And when they're having a tough time, it's my job to rise up and help them. So I think I've noticed whenever I don't communicate enough, like if it was a monthly all hands, culture becomes slightly more broken. And it's the same. If you imagine Boris Johnson, if you imagine Nicola Sturgeon, they stopped communicating to us right now, we would all start making things up in our own head, right? We'd start making up what's happening, and we'd all make up a different version, and it becomes panic, right? So keeping consistent and keeping consistent communication is very, very important. And tools like Slack keep that happening. But it's not one-sided. And I've not used the tool used CultureTalk, but we use a tool called Office Vibe, and it sends out a weekly and sometimes more than weekly survey to the team, where they input and say they talk and they feedback. So I have this kind of brilliant organizational sort of dashboard that shows me, like, my project management team are feeling quite under or overwhelmed, or not feeling thanked enough. So then I know when I go into my next all hands that I can focus more on that team. I can then speak to the leader of that team, and I can understand, well, there's something happening in this team that's maybe not quite as happy, and I can work to change that. As a leader, it's very hard to see all parts of your business, especially when you've got 50 people in the team. I find it it's quite challenging. So as much input to get feedback back the way, because often people in a public forum are very scared to talk. Not everyone feels comfortable to talk in amongst 50 people. So giving these tools to business allow you, and sometimes hard, because sometimes people are really brutally honest in these surveys, and we have them as anonymous in our business, so I don't know who they're from. I can often see a team that they're from, but I can't see who the person is, where they're from. So that gives that person the full autonomy to be able to. Now, it's good for you to understand, what's in your business, so that you can affect change. Because otherwise, if you have something negative, and negativity is something I don't really tolerate at all in our business. If we find it, we really try and breed a positive culture. So we try and solve that stuff very quickly. However, again, just with kind of productivity, I think when you have that transparency, when you tell people what system they're in and what success looks like, they become more productive. And one of the things that we say as part of our culture at MadeBrave is ask for forgiveness, not permission. So it allows people to go off and fuck up. It allows people to try things at the best of their ability, towards what you've set out as a vision or a purpose, or, any of these things. And if they get them wrong, all right, well, that's all right. You're a human being. I'm a human being. I get shit wrong. So we need to, allow people to do that. A good practical example, I suppose, I can give you of one of our clients. So we work with First Bus, the bus company, and you sometimes think, well, how does any of the brand work you do or work with them affect culture? Well, you know, a couple of years ago, they were launching new buses into Glasgow, and they said, Andrew, how do we tell Glasgow we've got 100 new eco-friendly buses, right? Now, we could have just gone, put some 6 sheets on the walls and said, you know, you've got new buses, here they are, blah, 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 right? But we pitched to them that we essentially, we did this, right? So this is we took a kind of tiny little bus you got as a kid, and we said, look, we want to make a huge life-size one, right? So we want to take it, we want to put a real double-decker in a bus, we want to put it in George Square. And they were like, well, why? And well, we explained, well, first of all, that's going to bring, you know, it's going to bring attention that you don't have to tell Glasgow. Glasgow is going to tell everyone about the buses, right? Because we create that stunt. But bigger than that, and the bit that probably most people didn't see was that you know, to increase revenue for the buses, to increase the experience for the customers and make them more money, you need the tribe. You need the bus drivers to be the best at customer experience. Now, no one had ever done anything to make the bus drivers feel proud in First Group, right? By creating that giant bus in a box in the middle of George Square, the whole company was G'd up and they were like, yes, that's our bus, that's our giant bus, and it's really cool. And suddenly bus drivers are cool, right? And so what happens is the bus drivers go in the bus drivers give customers a great experience, they're really kind to them. Someone that's on the bus for the first time goes, the bus is nice and I like that driver, I'm going to go on the bus again tomorrow. So the revenue increases, right? So that's where culture can have a huge effect. So, you know, the stunts that we do at MadeBrave, people think, wasting money, what's that? No, I'm not wasting money. I'm making my team really proud to be a MadeBraver. I'm making them enjoy their life. I'm making them love the culture, and they go off and delight my customers. So it's self-fulfilling, and your productivity, your client's productivity will go up if you invest in your own culture. So Keenan here is dedicated on the MadeBrave brand. You know, not many businesses, agencies never have it. They've never, you know, they've got someone else doing it. We've tried that in the past. Poor Keenan in the past had client work to do and the MadeBrave brand. It doesn't work, right? And it works at a stage when you're small enough because you can't afford a dedicated person. But as soon as we've invested to Keenan to own it fully, the culture gets better, the brand gets better. The next thing you do after that is you invest in a people person, L&D. We've got someone now completely dedicated on our people. And they're dedicated on purely making it the best place to work, making sure that we've got personal development plans, making sure that we're training our people, making sure that they know and they understand that they're valued. And then no one in MadeBrave feels guilty for spending money on the MadeBrave brand or for being part of the culture. You know, it's as equally as important as the client work. And that's not to say the client work's not important, you know, but agencies and my type of business and culture, they generally always only focus on the work. If you only focus on the work, there's 22,000 other agencies out there and they all do work of a similar standard. You need to do something with your culture that attracts the customers that you want, that attracts the team members that you want, and you need to balance both of those things off. Sorry, I'm getting quite excited.
Okay.
You can tell I like this topic.
You can take a breath now, Andrew.
I'm up on my soapbox, haven't I? Sorry, I'll have
That's
a sleep
right.
for a minute.
No worries. Right, so what I'm gonna ask Kirsty and Andrew if they've got an extra 5 minutes to stay on first, if that's okay. And I'm gonna ask you also to keep your answers short and like straight to the point with these questions. And we'll try and get through a couple of these questions in the chat box. So.
Sure.
The first one I've got is from Adam. Do you think you need to speak to people at all levels of the company to get a true reflection of the company's culture? And I'll just get one of you to answer this if that's okay.
One word, yes.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's brilliant, excellent. Let me see.
We're just going to give you one word answers for everything now, Lee. That's it. No. You've hurt our feelings.
So how do you think organizations might balance changing brand when the organization's revised goal might be to get stability first, then look at what next? Does that Tony, are you on the call still? Yeah, can I just get you to ask that with the mic off?
Yeah, sure. So my previous role was an operations director, and part of that challenge was to look at what's coming up and how do we balance all the changes that are being put forward. So at a time of change, organisations have got a lot of things to balance, getting back into profitability, looking at how you bring staff back, and putting culture on top of that is another challenge. So how do you convince a business it's the right thing to do?
Yeah. Well, I think you have a culture, whether you have a culture anyway. The culture is how you do things around here. The culture is the unspoken behaviours. The culture. So you have a culture, anyway. It's more around trying to define what kind of culture that you want to have and engendering that. And I don't think your culture comes from this is this common belief or this common. It's the culture is what unifies everybody. So I think to articulate where it is at the moment and how you want and if that is meeting the needs of your business and how you then move to change it. You can either ignore it, but it's there anyway. So it's not. I don't think it's something that you have to sort of take your eye off something else to do that. It's something that you need. It's to be composite. You can't disentangle your culture from what you're doing, what the activity of your business, if that makes sense. It's one and the same thing. So it's just maybe putting us. I think the name of this webinar is shining a spotlight on it. So I think it's being aware of it, and by being aware of it, then how you might try and shape it. And
Awesome.
being aware of it first is where to start, I think.
Thanks, Kirsty. Hopefully that helps, Tony. Rachel has asked, do you have any examples of how you've shared or incorporated your organizational values and content with your followers, customers, and supporters? And what I'd maybe add on to that is external partners, because I'm interested in that as well. But how do you bring these to life with everyone associated with the brand, not just the team? Andrew, you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just paste in. Where's my chat box gone? Sorry. So, you can look at our values page. You can also look at our careers pages. So, this is often how we bring a lot of the content to life. You'll find a lot of stuff in there. And yeah, I suppose, when we brought our values to life, as you can see, we brought them with externals. So some of those are suppliers. And, then some of them will be, if you look recently on our site, Keenan, I don't know if you can maybe dig out the link. We recently launched our new studio, and that was bringing all our suppliers, all our clients together, and we built a campaign around that. So it wasn't just about here's our new office. As part of that campaign, we talked about our values, we talked about what was important to us, and I suppose it showed really what that collective tribe was about, because it's not just what you define in your business, the actions you choose in terms of the suppliers, the clients you have, and everything actually say a lot about that, your culture.
Amazing. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, we've got a question from Chris. Chris Palmer. Is Chris still on the call? Yep. Chris, could you just ask, I see your question, would you be able to just ask that? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course I can. It kicked me out, so it's actually disappeared, but I'll try my best to remember what it was. I think what I was asking was around, we're talking a lot about people using this moment to reflect about their fit for a business with, the culture. How much of that reflection do you think has came from the way in which the company has reacted to the situation that we're in at the moment? So, for example, working from home, being flexible around that, etc. And I suppose, do you think this is key for that moment we spoke about around actually living and breathing our culture and our values as a business?
I'm not sure I totally understood the question.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused with the question as well. Sorry, Chris.
That's all right. So in terms of, do you think part of the reflection that people were having around their fit for a business, is this the right place for them to work, has been potentially around how the business itself has reacted to the COVID situation in terms of working from home, reopening offices, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I came across a website the other day, which was brilliant. Let's see, so employees are looking to their employers to lead and they're feeling this Edelman Trust Barometer again, feeling very let down. And brands and employers who have not responded well will be remembered and judged for that. And I came across a website which is called didtheyhelp.com, and essentially it's almost like a Trustpilot type website where people are actually posting up the businesses and celebrities as well who have done well and those who haven't done well. And there's a league table, and at the moment, top of the league table, and there's been over 2,000 submissions, 3 million page views, and it's almost like, yeah, and it's the top company is a Canadian. They seem to be something kind of telecoms company. And why people think they've responded well. So they've given free internet access, they've done this, they've done that. And top of and it's called the zeros and the heroes. So top of the leaderboard, and there's a leaderboard, and then top of the zeros board is the president of Brazil. And he's in negative equity, and the top reason for that is because he proposed that it's quite okay for businesses to not pay their employees for up to a period of 4 months, and that's the top reason why there's an outcry, obviously. And yes, so absolutely, how businesses are responding, but also how businesses are treating their employees. And there's only that recent example at that hotel up in Aviemore, wasn't it, where they got they sacked people, and they had also lost their homes and said, but you have to move out, and the backlash on that, will we recover from that? So definitely, people, and that trust barometer as well, that's a key thing that people are looking at in terms of trust, is a mark of trust, is how the employers are treating their employees, and they'll be remembered for it, for good or for bad.
Thanks, Kirsty. Okay, I'm going to be respectful of people's time because people will have things to get on with. So sorry we've not managed to get through all of the questions, but I'd just like to say thanks to Andrew and Kirsty for taking the time to come on today. And thanks to everyone for listening. We do have a follow-up email which will come out. So I'm going to ask Andrew and Kirsty if they think there's anything of value or that we've missed, to just ping that to me and we can include it in the email. But yeah, thanks for listening, and have a great day, everyone.